Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my Week 7 Top 25 predictions. This week is absolutely loaded, and it kind of sucks because I'm going to have to miss the first half of the games from pretty much 9 to 4. I'm not going to be able to watch those games, which kind of sucks. Very unfortunate, but hopefully I get to be back for two of the biggest games, the two biggest games this week. Although I'm more excited for this Texas-Oklahoma game rather than the Ole Miss LSU, but whatever. No complaining. A like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps. Let's get straight into this thing right now. So, of course, I have to start off with my Arizona State Sun Devils, and I really don't want to, man, because they're 4-1, and when it comes down to predicting my team, I can't stop being wrong. I just seriously can't stop being wrong. That's why I kind of started to leave them out at first. I had started off, I did the Mississippi State game, and it was scary, and I didn't like the way it felt, so I stopped. But I can't avoid it now. There is finally a top 25 matchup for ASU, and really what it's going to come down to in this game is because it's going to be the biggest game of the year for ASU. They've been trying to interact with this school, the student section, so much. They offered them free Chick-fil-A if they stayed the whole game against Kansas, which I believe did play a massive factor into it because there was a lot of momentum in that final fourth quarter. ASU scored 21 points in that fourth quarter, and they are not wrong trying to get this student section as wired into the game as they possibly can. They're smart for doing so. And Utah, it's going to come down to whether Cam Rising is going to be in or not, which it's been like this every single year since he was a freaking godsend in those early Pac-12 championship wins. He's just been getting hurt left and right. And we don't know if he's going to play yet. They said a week ago or something that, yes, Cam Rising was going to be starting. You could look it up, and it said, yes, Cam Rising is the starter. He is going to be starting. And he did not show up in that game. So either, they're just lying to fool their enemies, or it's like they're just lying because they know, people won't respect Utah unless they have Cam Rising, and I still don't necessarily know if Cam Rising is playing in this game or not. But from what I know is he got pushed into some Gatorade jugs and stuff, and he broke two of his fingers, either just his ring finger or another one, because they said they're two fingers are wrapped up on his throwing hand, and that doesn't just take 2 seconds to heal. But he hasn't they just had a bye week. He also hasn't played since the Baylor game. You'd think he'd probably be getting close to healthy by now. Who knows if he's going to suit up? But I'm anticipating that he doesn't suit up because I was all last year, I was like, Cam Rising will be back, Cam Rising will be back, and he was never back. He didn't show up for the rest of the year, and it pissed me off. So now I know better than to say he's going to be back. And to be honest, looking at Utah and how they've played without this guy, they really haven't played that good. Of course, you get the road win against Oklahoma State, which in hindsight looked good at the time because Oklahoma State was number 14. But then Oklahoma State got thrashed by Kansas State and got destroyed in their home stadium by West Virginia. And Oklahoma State is now nowhere near the top 25 and not even talked about whatsoever. They have just fallen off like they have done for so many years. And then Utah turned around and lost to Arizona in Utah's home stadium, which Arizona got killed by Kansas State, and then they just lost to Texas Tech in their home stadium. So really, when you look at it, and even in that Arizona game, Arizona should have lost that game. Utah failed 4 fourth down conversions, didn't convert a single one, and turned the ball over twice. U of A only turned it over once. Utah had more yards of offense and stuff, but that is just a summary of what Utah kind of is under this quarterback. Could they have fixed some things up in this bye week? Could they? Maybe, possibly. It looks like they have a semi-decent run game. That could be a huge problem for ASU. because it's just a little questionable on how they are on the run defense. That's for sure. But yeah, it looks like the Utah running back has had to been the one to take off because Isaac Wilson is not performing very well against good defenses. Like, he's not playing his best football. Throwing a lot of picks, not really completing many catches. And I do think ASU has a relatively good defense in the Big 12. I'm not sure if their defense is better than Arizona's, but still, the big thing here is that also Utah is no longer in their home stadium. To be honest, something that I've noticed is that Oklahoma State's home stadium is actually, like, it's weak. Like, to be honest, Oklahoma State doesn't get that home field advantage like other schools do. It's weird. It's just something that I've picked up on. It's like when you think a game will go a certain way because of the home field, like the home field doesn't really seem to play much of a factor into their game like it does for other schools like Penn State and stuff, obviously. But even like Ole Miss, Arkansas, like it doesn't really play much of a factor. It will for ASU, that is for sure. Like I said, when I first started talking about this game, they've been trying to get as many students to show up to this game. And in the past 2 years, ASU's been 3-9. The program has been falling apart. We're off to a 4-1 start. And, you know, that's really big for the fans. And this is the biggest matchup yet. I've seen a lot of people say they're going to this game. I wish I could go to the game, but I can't because I work, which is annoying. But I think I have the moxie to say ASU wins. I'm scared to say that because, again, what Utah did to us last year was Utah just ran the ball down our throats. And something that has been an issue with ASU is injuries on the D-line and stuff. Really, it's been a problem. But in that Kansas game, right, our defense, in that Kansas game, our defense did hold fairly well throughout the game. I mean, the game could have gone so much worse. To allow 31 points doesn't look good in hindsight, but it took a lot of stuff to go Kansas's way to even get those 31 points, and holding them to 31 points was a W. I mean, ASU turned the ball away on crucial points in the game. Like, we were driving right before halftime when our receiver caught a ball, and he just tried to, like, juke around and stay up, and they ripped the ball out of his hands, and they just took it. And I don't remember they didn't score off of that, but they could have scored going into halftime, which would have put them up 21-7 on us. But instead, our defense held strong and got the ball right back, and we scored. It also took a Kansas block field goal. So I'm just saying, like, with all this talking that I've been doing, it's very hard to put a finger on where ASU lies right now because there is a lot of good, but there's also a lot of bad. But there's a lot of bad because of good and a lot of good because of bad. It's like you don't know where ASU stands, but you also don't know where Utah stands because they win a good one and then they drop one and then they win a good one. So I'm just gonna take ASU and call it the home field advantage. I really don't know who's going to win this game. I'm excited to watch this game, but I really don't know who's going to win this game. I really don't know. If I could just put a W here and an L here or a W here and an L here, I would, but I got to write down a score. So I'm going to say it comes down to like a last-second field goal or something, and ASU wins. I'll just say ASU wins because of the home field. Whatever. Next game. South Carolina, Alabama. I have finally decided to put my foot in the ground and say we are not skipping any games this year whatsoever because I skipped the Vanderbilt game, the Alabama-Vanderbilt game. I skipped the USC-Minnesota game. I cannot keep on skipping games like this. I skipped the Miami-Cal game. Just because I thought they were going to be blowouts, I skipped them. And I have paid the price so far, so I'm not skipping any more games. South Carolina, Alabama, there's no shot South Carolina goes into Bama Stadium and wins, especially after how they got treated against Ole Miss. This Alabama team is looking for a win after an embarrassing loss. I mean, it's a dark day to be a Bama fan right now until they play this game. They're going to bounce back, no question. this isn't supposed to say Clemson at FSU. This is supposed to say Clemson at Wake Forest. Let's just pretend it says Clemson at Wake Forest. I want to say, like, this matchup has been very good throughout recent years, but Wake Forest does not look to be very good right now. They 1-point loss to Virginia. They did win at North Carolina State, but you saw how Clemson handled North Carolina State, so that doesn't really count as a quality win. Wake Forest also got killed by Ole Miss, and they lost to Louisiana. So, and I mean, Clemson's only loss is to number 5 in the country. And I guess I can try and say that they've made changes since then, but give me Clemson. They're just going to keep on thrashing their way to the ACC championship until somebody tries to stop them, like Virginia Tech. Missouri at UMass. Yep, I'm not even going to skip this game. I did look at UMass because I'm kind of interested. Now, Missouri definitely needs this game, and they need it to be a big bounce-back game because of how embarrassed they got last week. But UMass hasn't been performing like awfully, even though they're 1-5. They haven't been performing like terribly in their games. The only bad game was against Buffalo. They lost 3-34. That was the worst one by far. But you know, a 100-yard pick six kind of put that game away. So you could argue that it should have at least been 10-31 or something, but still or 10-27. Still not that good, but whatever. But they took Miami, Ohio into overtime, in which they lost by 3. Miami, Ohio played Cincinnati fairly well. They only lost to Toledo 23-38. Toledo went into Mississippi State and absolutely embarrassed them on their home field. And they only lost to NIU, the same team that beat Notre Dame. They only lost them by 14 points. So you could make an argument that maybe UMass's record isn't what they show, even though they're still probably hideous. I'm going to say, obviously, like, I'm just trying to say, like, okay, maybe UMass isn't as bad as their record says. They've lost a lot of well-fought games, but Missouri still leagues ahead of this team. I'm going to say Missouri goes in and takes a W. Brady Cook has got to activate. He's got one of the best receivers in the game. He has got to wake up. Otherwise, his team is just going to fall apart for the rest of the year. Texas versus Oklahoma and the All-State Red River rivalry. Very exciting game. Thanks to commenter, Quinn Ewers is playing in this game. I did not know that. What does it take for me to figure out what fucking quarterback is starting? Literally. Like, it is impossible for me to figure out who is starting and who is not starting. And with that being said, Quinn Ewers right now, I think, is better than Arch Manning. But, of course, that's because of experience, and Arch Manning is young. Maybe give Arch Manning time. We'll see then. But all I know is Oklahoma's offense is trash. It is bad. But Oklahoma has a very good defense from what it looks like. Oklahoma's barely scraping by right now on a 1-loss record. They had to pull an Auburn win out of their ass. They got, I don't want to say, no, they kind of did get beat up pretty good by Tennessee. Those 15 points are a bit fraudulent. It came in crunch time. They barely beat Houston by 4 points, which, Houston is one of the bottom feeders of the Big 12 right now. They have been shut out twice this year by Big 12 teams, Cincinnati and Iowa State. So winning by 4 points in your home stadium to Houston is not a good look. So I would like to say, throughout the years, Oklahoma has kind of been the team to win this rivalry. Even last year when Texas was the better team, they still lost this game. They managed to lose it. I think this is just going to be the year that Texas finally takes it. Now, I'll give Oklahoma credit on their defense, but Quinn Ewers is back. Texas might run free in this game. There's high potential that Texas finally puts this Oklahoma team out of their misery and kicks them out of the top 25. Maybe. Penn State at USC. Now, literally a week ago, before USC lost to Minnesota, this was looking like it could be one of the games of the week. It was like number 6 versus number 11, and then boom, One loss later, straight out of the top 25, and now it's just Penn State, number 4 at USC. And it'd be easy to say, well, USC isn't ranked. They lost to Minnesota. Clearly, they're not that good. They're going to lose this game. It's easy to say that, but, USC, I don't really know what they're about. And I don't really know what Penn State's about. It's hard to tell what USC is about because their only win is against LSU, who I think is insanely overrated right now. They have a 3-point loss to Michigan on the road and then a loss to Minnesota on the road. Other than that, they've done nothing short of dominate their other games. They handled business against Wisconsin in a game they had to come back in. They absolutely shut out Utah State. I'm just saying, it's easy to say here after USC loses to Minnesota, it's easy to say that USC is going to lose this game and Penn State's going to win, especially since Penn State's up to number 4 right now. But I think that's jumping to conclusions, and you can't count any game out this year. USC is obviously, after a loss to Minnesota, it's only bounced back from here. And this is a bounce back game where you need to make your name known. Because you don't get another opportunity like this until the end of the year. Like, this is your last ranked opponent until the last game of the year when you play Notre Dame. And who knows? Notre Dame there's potential that Notre Dame could fall off and not even be ranked. You do have Nebraska as the year goes on, but Nebraska could fall apart. Who knows? This is your only, right now in the moment, this is the only ranked team you have for a long time. This is your moment where you got to bring it back. And I would like to put faith in USC, but Penn State has done very, very well on road games. West Virginia right now, they are, other than the game opener against Penn State, they are 4 points short of being a one-loss team right now. And Penn State has handled business. Bowling Green has been a very solid team against Power 4 opponents. Bowling Green has been nothing short of a Power 4 competitor, I guess you could say. But Penn State handled business on the road against West Virginia. Now, again, if you go back to the start of this year, you know how I feel about those games or that game because a giant weather delay delays it by many hours, kind of forced a lot of West Virginia fans to leave. The game was just put to a halt because West Virginia can't avoid the storms. And right before halftime, there was a huge push-off by the Penn State wide receiver in which he caught it right down at the 10-yard line. And the referees just completely disregarded it just entirely. And it allowed Penn State to get all the momentum going into the locker room. They scored 20 points in that second quarter, in which it could have been 13-6 going into halftime. But instead it was 20-6, and the game was just over. They scored a touchdown out of the third quarter in an empty stadium and a demoralized West Virginia. That's going to happen when every single little thing plays against you. You can blame refs. You can blame weather. You can blame almost anything. It all went against West Virginia in that game. That's why I feel like we shouldn't even regard that game, to be honest. Shouldn't even regard that. But Penn State had an opportunity to prove themselves against Illinois, who has been, a very solid team. Don't blink twice for Illinois. They went on the road and handled Nebraska in overtime, so a road game is not a problem for Illinois. Cornhusker Stadium is one of the hardest stadiums to play in, especially when it's a good Cornhusker team. And Illinois handled a very close game. They did not let the nerves get to them. I like their head coach. He's a cool guy. But Penn State managed to put away Illinois in the fourth quarter in a defensive battle. They made little to no mistakes. They had 374 yards to Illinois' 219. The only mistake Penn State made was they failed a fourth down conversion. Illinois failed one of their 2 fourth down conversions and turned it over twice. Penn State just played solid football. That's it. They just played solid football. Both teams missed a field goal. It looks like Penn State missed 2 field goals, actually, so it could have been a bit more of a beatdown. But, I think Illinois just was outmatched going into that game. So, with that being said, I'm going to take Penn State. I could see a higher scoring game here, even though these two teams look like they are mainly defensive. Miller Moss could get some things working over the air with Lincoln Riley. He's obviously been an offensive head coach throughout the years. And Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, I think his name is. They've got plenty of weapons offensively there. I think this one could maybe get pretty out of control for a little bit. Maybe like USC goes up 24-7 or something, like before halftime, and then Penn State just has to work their way back into the game before USC tries to make it close type of deal, if you guys get what I'm going for. Like USC goes up 24-7, Penn State brings it all the way back, goes up 35-24, and then USC scores a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to make it a 3-point game, but then Penn State wins the game type of deal, if you guys catch my vibe. That's the way I think this game could go. I'm going to not lose entire faith in USC, although a loss at Minnesota is pretty bad. Minnesota lost to North Carolina, who is getting beat up pretty good in the ACC. Stanford at Notre Dame. At first, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, give me Notre Dame in this one, but you can't blink twice. Notre Dame is arguably worse in their home stadium than on the road. They're arguably worse. They play better on the road than they do at home, which is super weird. And Stanford is one of those stingers. They are one of those teams that can hit the road and perform. They did it against Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse is a one-loss team right now. Yeah, I think they're 4-1 right now. If they didn't lose that game to Stanford, they'd be 5-0 right now with 2 ranked wins, But they somehow Stanford managed to pull their shit together and hit the road and beat Syracuse, which was very impressive by Stanford, the 2 S's going after it. Stanford since then has just kind of been getting rocked by the tough competition in the ACC. They had to go on the road to Clemson. They got beat up pretty good. They had to host Virginia Tech, who Virginia Tech has been getting robbed game after game after game. So, yeah, I think Stanford could maybe make it interesting for a little bit, but I do think Notre Dame will be able to win this one. They just can't make mistakes like they did in the NIU game. Riley Leonard sure as hell can't throw a pick six to give Stanford the ball and kick a game-winning field goal. Did I say pick six? If I said pick six, I didn't mean to say pick six. He definitely can't throw a pick and let Stanford kick a field goal to win the game. That would be a little deja vu. Cal at Pitt. This one's fun. This one is definitely a fun game, but Cal is sadly demoralized right now. If they had that win against Miami, this one would be fun, but they didn't. Cal has been trucking along. They did lose to Florida State, which is kind of unfortunate. They would have been 4-0 going into the Miami game, but they also, lost by 1 point to Miami. That's still pretty good. That's still a pretty good performance by Cal. They did lose by 5 to Florida State, but Florida State, if anything, has a good defense, which has proven a couple times. And, yeah, well, Jesus. Hold on. Let me just talk about the Cal-FSU game. How the hell did Cal manage to have 410 yards and only score 9 points? What the hell happened there? That's unbelievable. Yeah, that is true. Oh, a missed field goal. 2 missed field goals. And they failed a 4th down conversion at the FSU 23 on 4th and 16. That actually very well could have been a Cal victory. But, man, the fact that you don't score a touchdown with 410 yards is just depressing. So Cal, it kind of looks like Cal is a little bit underrated then at this point. 1 point loss to Miami, 5-point loss to Florida State, in which they could have won, but their kicker sold. But Pitt has been very, very solid against tough competition. They went on the road and beat Cincinnati by a point, but that's starting to look better and better as the days go on. Cincinnati is actually a pretty good team. They did manage to go on the road and beat North Carolina. They hosted West Virginia and came back and won a huge necessary win that they were down by like 10 points in. They needed to win that. I'm calling for a relatively fun one. Cal's just a bit demoralized right now. It's going to be up to them whether they can bounce back. And, okay, I just want to say this. Yeah, apparently there is just no such thing as a Pitt stadium, a Pitt college football stadium. There's just no such thing on Google Images. So I chose a Steelers picture. Yes, suck it. Let's get some Pittsburgh stadium pictures in Google Images, please. That would be nice. I don't know if you guys saw that in my review, that Alabama Vandy where I chose them tearing down the goalpost. That was because I uploaded a picture myself. I just found one on the web, but it was so pixelated. That's why I have to do these stadium pictures and stuff so I can get clear pictures in the background, because if you try to upload something, it doesn't upload. It makes it look so terrible and awful. It just looks so bad. So I have to choose from Google Images, which kind of leaves me with some boring ass pictures. So if you ever wondered why that is, that's why I kind of don't really have a choice. Either you guys are just going to be like staring at a pile of shit, or you guys are going to be staring at a lesser pile of shit type of deal. It's kind of annoying how Google does that, but whatever. Purdue at Illinois. I don't have any faith in Purdue. They after picking Purdue to beat Notre Dame, man, oh my gosh. Purdue has since lost. Or since their first game of the year, they've lost every single game. Now hitting the road against Illinois. I do think that, I'm not sure if this is a rivalry, but these two teams definitely seem like they just butt heads at the bottom of the conference a lot. But Illinois is turning around. They're 4-1. I think Illinois got it. They've got a solid defense to put this down and a sneaky offense. Arizona at BYU. So Arizona, this is another tough team, man. They can't perform. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it, because when you look at it, they got killed on the road against Kansas State. And then they win on the road against Utah, but maybe Utah's really bad, and we just don't realize it yet. And then, who did they lose to? They lost to Texas Tech, in which they were up. They sold in their home stadium. So I don't know about U of A. They also struggled in their non-conference games at the start of the year. And BYU has handled business against pretty much everybody because they're 5-0. So I'm going to take BYU. I'll say U of A will score some points, but I'm going to take BYU to hold strong in their home stadium. Is probably going to be absolutely packed there. That Mormon strength go crazy. I'm going to take BYU. Florida at Tennessee. I was about to skip this one before I realized that's not fair in a rivalry. I was looking at it. Oh, I just realized. All right, I'm looking at this. I just realized I accidentally skipped a game. Mississippi State at Georgia. Maybe my subconscious saw it and was just like, that ain't important. Mississippi State at Georgia. If I had to make a prediction for that, 7-49, give me Georgia. Whatever. Georgia's favored by 34 points. Whatever. Give me Georgia in a domination. Florida at Tennessee. Florida, they're 3-2. Their wins are against Samford, on the road at Mississippi State, and hosting UCF. They have to hit the road and play Tennessee. Tennessee's coming off of a loss at Arkansas. Florida has to go into Volunteer Stadium. I'm going to take Tennessee in a big one. I think their offense can score a little bit of points, but I'm going to take Tennessee in a domination here. I don't feel like Florida's going to be able to do anything. And the game of the week, Ohio State at Oregon. Hype game. I'm going to try my freaking darndest to get back before this game starts so I can put this up on my TV and watch it. It sucks that it's on Peacock because that's obnoxious. But Ohio State at Oregon. Super hyped for this game. Very excited. Who do I think is going to win? That's a great question. Ohio State is yet to really play an opponent. Oregon has a win against Boise State. And that's pretty much it for both teams. They haven't really played much of anybody. Oregon's got the higher quality win here. Oregon, their offense seems to be pretty good. Dylan Gabriel really has to sharpen up for this game, and he has been able to sharpen up for the big game. I mean, last year he did it with Oklahoma against Texas, and he seems to play kind of worse against the bad teams. He did it against Oklahoma lost to. They lost 2 games they shouldn't have lost. That was a whole year ago, though. I don't remember. But I know they lost 2 games. I think they just lost 2 games after that. But Dillon Gabriel shouldn't have lost those games after beating a team like Texas. So maybe he's just going to lock in for this game. But the Oregon offense has been seemingly solid. They have weapons all over the place. Dan Lanning can't escape this matchup, the one-rank matchup in which his team is the lower-ranked team. But this time, it's not at Washington. This time, it is at Oregon. And it's not against Washington, who owns Oregon. It's against Ohio State, which Oregon, I don't want to say Oregon owns Ohio State in any sort of form. I kind of said that last time, but I don't really mean that. Oregon did go into Ohio State in 2021 and win that game out of nowhere. But Ohio State won the national championship against Oregon, which is arguably a much more important game than the 2021 game. But those are all a super long time ago. So it doesn't really count. These teams are finally going to start meeting up more often. And Ohio State is favored by 3 to go on the road. I'm just not really sure that they're going to be able to go on the road and take down Oregon. It's going to be a crazy environment, but Ryan Day, a lot of people say he's in the hot seat. I don't know what people are talking about. He is a fabulous coach for Ohio State. What are they talking about? He is in the hot seat. Dude, he has done nothing short of bring Ohio State, or I don't want to say bring him to glory. He's been keeping them at glory. It's just the problem is they keep on losing to Michigan. But Jim Harbaugh is gone now. That's the thing is Jim Harbaugh had been cooking something up in Michigan for such a long time. Jim Harbaugh's gone now. He's gone. Michigan's not a problem. This is Ohio State's time. Now he gets to thrive. And, I mean, also you got to remember, Ohio State lost because of a missed field goal to Georgia. They could have gone to the national championship and beaten TCU. They could have. Like, seriously. But, wow, that's crazy to say that TCU is in the national championship. That's actually insane. That's insane to think about now that I really think about it. That's crazy. But Ohio State at Oregon. I've been avoiding clicking the score because I forgot who I fucking took. I took Oregon. I literally forgot who I predicted because it's going to be a close one, and it's going to be a good one. At least I hope so. I don't think like either of these teams are just going to be able to run free in this game. I don't think either of them have the skill capacity to just completely thrash one. Oregon is a solid team. They beat Boise State, who Boise State has one of the most high-powered offenses in the country right now, and a absolute beast at running back. Oregon won, or they probably could have lost that game, but they won against Boise State, which Boise State's going to climb up the rankings higher and higher and higher as the days go. Who's Ohio State played? They haven't played anybody. So I just think, Ohio State has been preparing a lot for this game, but so has Oregon. And Oregon they started off slow, but they have found their element. I feel like they are starting to patch up the mistakes, and they're starting to fall into place more. I'm going to take Oregon. I could regret this. I could very well regret this, but I've put my faith in Ohio State a couple times, especially in the Michigan games, and they haven't done it. So I think maybe Oregon could take Michigan's place and take Ohio State down. I'm not too sure, really. I'm going to take either of these teams, kind of like my Utah ASU prediction. I don't know. I'm taking the home field here. Let's call it home field. Give me Oregon by 3. It's a big game. And maybe Dillon Gabriel can perform in the big game, but maybe Ohio State can as well. I'm also not really too sure about Will Howard. That's the thing, is I just don't really feel like he necessarily fits Ohio State. I just don't know if he fits their team. Like, he was definitely an interesting quarterback at Kansas State, but who knows? Maybe I'll be very wrong. I also haven't really watched a singular Ohio State game this year because they've all been blowouts. I don't really know what this Ohio State team looks like. But I have been watching Oregon a little bit, and I know a little bit more about them at least, so I'll take Oregon. Ole Miss at LSU. This is, unfortunately, one of the games of the week, even though by the end of the year, we will know that LSU is not even supposed to be close to 13. I'm expecting Ole Miss to thrash this team. I've been saying that word a lot. I've been saying thrash a lot. But I'm expecting Ole Miss to put the hammer down. Again, if you want to look at it like this, both of these teams had to play on the road at South Carolina. One of these teams won because of a missed field goal. Who knows what would have happened in that overtime, but they walked out with their pants down. One of these teams absolutely shut down that same very team to just 3 points the whole game. So tell me what's going to happen in this game. Ole Miss's only loss is to Kentucky, the same team that almost beat Georgia by a point. Now, of course, the same team that got killed by South Carolina, which can really make shit fun, but we're going to exclude that because the Kentucky quarterback was 3 for 10, 30 yards. We're not counting that game. So I'm going to take Ole Miss to kick the crap out of LSU. I don't care if it's at LSU. I really don't feel like Ole Miss is going to blink twice. I think they are just a much more skilled team to go on the road and win this. Iowa State at West Virginia, as I was talking about in my AP Top 25 video. Look at this guy. Look at my cursor. Look at this fella. What are you looking at, buddy? Dude is looking like, why are you looking at the camera like that? Did you think? He was like, oh, man, there's a camera behind it. Let me just whip out this face. He looks like he's got a barbarian mustache. He's got a barbarian mustache and beard from Clash of Clans. Dude, what are you looking at the camera like that for? You couldn't, he's trying to smile a little bit, but it's like nothing's working. That guy probably had a very hard day. He was probably excited but not excited for this game. Iowa State at West Virginia. Iowa State hasn't really played anybody. Their big win is on the road against Iowa. It was a good win, but it also wasn't a good win because Ohio State absolutely killed Iowa. Now, it is a different game when Ohio State gets to play in their home stadium. It is a little bit different, but that's so far Iowa State's only good win. West Virginia, I said it at the start of the year. Not at the start of the year, but at the start of everybody's conference play. I said for two teams, Kansas or West Virginia, and from that Kansas-West Virginia game, it was going to be determined from that point forward whose season wasn't over. Both teams had taken 2 losses in non-conference play and were 1-2 going into those games. They were 1-2. But since then, West Virginia has pounded forward. They beat Kansas in a very close game, and then they beat the absolute hell out of Oklahoma State on the road. West Virginia is starting to regain hope. They are 2-0 in conference play. Their season is not over whatsoever. Their 2 losses are against 2 undefeated teams. They are still solid. Their W in their logo looks like the Whataburger logo. Do not blink twice from this team. And Iowa State, yes, they're good. Their offense looks solid. They look like they have a lot of bruisers on their team. Everybody looks pretty stocky on that team. But I just don't think they're going to be able to go on the road into West Virginia at a night game. It's 8 p.m. there when this game starts. They have to go into a night game in West Virginia. It's going to be difficult. I think Iowa State is taking the L here. I'm going to call for a high-scoring game because West Virginia's quarterback is a runner and a track star. His throwing abilities are pretty solid, sort of, but really the main thing is his running game. Iowa State's offense also seems to be pretty high-powered. Iowa State's defense is where it's like, are they good? Are they not? I don't really think they are. Yes, they shut out Houston, but Houston, I don't know, dude. They struggled offensively a lot. They're really having a hard time putting things together. They finally looked like they shapened up against TCU, but Iowa State allowed Baylor to score 21 points in a game that it really was a close game, and Baylor has been losing left and right. I think West Virginia's winning this one. Give me a close one, but I think West Virginia's winning this one. They're going to go to 4-2, and they will be 3-0 in conference play. Don't blink twice for Whataburger. I mean West Virginia. Kansas State at Colorado. I'm calling for another Big 12 upset. I'll just say it. Colorado's 1 loss is on the road at Nebraska. Did you really think Colorado, after all that has happened to Colorado and all the media presence and stuff, that they were going to go into a former rival stadium and a team that has really Nebraska's really good this year, Did you really think Colorado was going to be able to go into their stadium and perform? They got defensively shut out. I mean, Nebraska only scored 28 points, and it all came in the first half, and one of those was a pick six. It could have been 10-21, but still, Nebraska has a very good defense. Colorado has a very good offense. And again, it's a learning game. They also started off with a 5-point win over North Dakota State, and then they got killed by Nebraska, but then they bounced back with a win on the road at Colorado State. An overtime win against Baylor, and then they killed UCF in UCF's home stadium. Now they get to return home, and for a 7:15 p.m. night game, they get to host Kansas State, who has already once proven that they cannot perform on the road. They got killed by BYU. I mean, absolutely destroyed. And it was mainly because they turned the ball away 6 times. 6 times. And yeah, that's just simply it. They've proven they can't perform on the road. You're arguably going into a harder road environment, even though BYU seems to have a much more solid defense. You're going up against a very high-powered offense, and this stadium is absolutely rocking back and forth. So I'm taking Colorado. I'm taking Colorado in a little bit of a lower scoring game, other than, the fact that this will probably be a more offensive matchup. Sometimes you got to predict this way. Sometimes offensive teams turn out to have defensive games, like you can't predict it. And sometimes defensive teams turn out to have offensive games. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say here in this sense, because sometimes an offensive team will just not have an offensive game. And I can't spit it out, but you know what I'm trying to say. I just had a stroke, but you know what I'm trying to say, man. Sometimes offensive games have defensive games, but I think this one's going to be close and fun to watch. Give me Colorado. And I'm not even changing the profile picture or the background picture. I don't care enough. Give me Boise State in a domination. He's going to run for like 5,000 yards in one game, and they're going to hand him the Heisman right after this match. That's all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. A like and subscribe would help. A comment always helps, and that's all for me. Adios.